The attic in summer was a slow, suffocating beast. Josh and I would conquer it every July, armed with flashlights and bravery, wading through the tangible history of dust. But in '97 the beast offered a secret. Not a shoebox, but a small leather satchel, brittle as a dried beetle shell, tucked inside the hollow leg of an old sewing dummy. The Polaroids inside smelled of chemical vanilla and something else, a faint metallic tang, like old coins. At first, they were just echoes of laughter. Grandpa with a prize-winning fish, Mom as a toddler, icing smeared from ear to ear. Then we saw the rule of him. A tall, thin stroke of darkness, always in the marginalia of our family's joy. At the lake picnic, he was waist-deep in the distant water, though no one remembered a man swimming. In the Christmas photo, he stood between the living room curtains, a sliver of a shadow in our own home. Grandma didn't just go pale. She made a sound, a small whoomp of air leaving her lungs as if she'd been struck. "You put that back right where you found it," she hissed, her voice a dry rustle. "You don't look at them. Looking is what he wants." That night, Josh shook me awake. He pointed silently out the bedroom window. Down by the old willow, a shadow disconnected itself from the tree and stood, perfectly still, facing the house. The satchel was ashes by morning, but Josh had been cunning. He'd slipped 4 photos into the waistband of his shorts. The worst ones. Years later, scanning them felt like a betrayal. The digital light peeled back layers the Polaroid had kept secret. In the lake picture, zooming in on the water around his waist revealed not distortion, but the blurred, pale shapes of what looked like fingers breaking the surface near his legs, as if he were standing on someone's shoulders. In the Christmas photo, enhancing the gloom between the curtains, showed his head was now turned, offering the ghost of a profile, a sharp nose, a deep-set eye socket. Grandma's fear became the new architecture of the house. The attic was sealed not just with a lock, but with a line of salt across the threshold. She took to burning sage every Sunday. Her explanation, when it finally came, was worse than any ghost story. "He's not a man," she said, stirring her tea long after the sugar had dissolved. "He's a thistle, a prickly, hungry thing that grows in the neglected spaces of a family. He doesn't want to hurt you. He wants to be acknowledged, to be seen again and again until his presence is more real than your memory of the event itself. Your grandfather tried to confront him, went out with his camera, shouting, 'Take a picture of me then, you coward!' She put the spoon down. It didn't clink. He developed the film himself, 24 shots of the empty tree line, and in every single one in the very center was a single, dark, blurry shoe. His shoe. She believed burning the photos severed the connection. It didn't just hide the evidence, it erased the food. You stopped looking, he stopped having a reason to be looked at. But Josh never stopped looking. He became an archivist of the awful. He framed the 4 stolen photos, hanging them in a deliberate row in his study, a timeline. A study of proximity, he called it, his voice tinged with a feverish academic pride. He noted the changing leaves in the background, proving the years past, and the man's incremental advancement, from the tree line, to the garden edge, to the porch steps, to the window. Last month, I visited. Josh was unshaven, his eyes bright with a terrible energy. He didn't greet me, he simply said, "He's in the room now." He pointed to the 4th photo, the one from a 1967 Thanksgiving. Originally, the man had been a shadow in the open doorway of the dining room. Now, in the frame on Josh's wall, he was completely inside the room, standing just behind Grandma's empty chair. His face was still unclear, but his posture had changed. One hand was raised, fingers slightly curled, as if resting on a shoulder that wasn't there. "The photos aren't a trail he follows," Josh whispered, his breath fogging the glass. "They're rooms. And we've been putting him in a new one, giving him a better view, every time we look." He turned to me, and I saw a grim realization dawning in his eyes, colder than fear. Grandma was wrong about everything. She didn't send him away by burning them. He looked back at the photo, at the hand hovering near the empty chair. "She just made him need a closer room, and now he's in mine. He's teaching me the rules. The next time you visit, he might be in yours." Josh's gaze drifted past me, to the dark hallway behind us. "And the awful part is, after a while, you get used to the company. You start to wonder what he sees, what he's been trying to show us all along." I left Josh's house that night with a cold stone in my stomach. The drive home was a blur of shadows that seemed to hold their shape a second too long. A week later, a padded envelope arrived with no return address. Inside was a single new photograph. Not a faded Polaroid, but a crisp, modern digital print. It was a picture of my own living room, taken from the perspective of the hallway. I was in it, slumped on my sofa last Tuesday, watching TV in the blue gloom. And there, in the far corner of the room, barely beyond the reach of the lamplight, was the familiar thin, dark shape. He was no longer at an edge. He was inside. My home, my now. Scrawled on the back in Josh's frantic handwriting was a note. He doesn't need our old pictures anymore. He makes his own. I think he's using my eyes. When I sleep, I see through his. I see your house. I see you. Don't look for me. I haven't heard from Josh since. The police found his house empty, the 4 framed photos on the wall gone, but on his desk, they found a fresh, blank Polaroid film pack. And in his wastebasket, a single discarded shot. It was a selfie, Josh's face pale and drawn, taken in his own study. His expression was one of resigned horror. Because standing directly behind him, closer than ever before, one hand finally coming to rest on Josh's shoulder, was the man. His face was still turned away, but now he was looking directly into the camera lens. And this time, he was in focus. I've started sleeping with the lights on. I've covered every mirror and blacked out every window. But last night, my phone buzzed on the bedside table, a notification from my cloud storage. An album I didn't create had been shared with me. It's titled Closer. It contains 1 photo so far. It's of my dark bedroom. It was taken from the corner of the room. The timestamp is from 5 minutes ago. I haven't opened it. I'm too afraid to look. But I can feel the weight of it in my pocket. And a worse, more insidious thought is creeping in. One that feels less like my own, and more like a whisper from a dark corner of a room. What if he just wants us to see what he sees? What if, after all this time, he's not the one watching us, but waiting for us to finally notice what's standing beside him? The weight of the phone in my hand felt like a live coal. I didn't open the shared album. Instead, I did something worse. I called Josh. It rang once, then went straight to a robotic, impersonal message. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. That fast. That final. I spent the night paralyzed in the blinding glare of every light I could turn on, my back to a corner, staring at the empty space in my bedroom from which the photo must have been taken. The air grew thick and still, as if the room itself was holding its breath. By dawn, a terrible logic had settled over me. This was a conversation. Ignoring it was no longer an option. With trembling fingers, I opened the cloud storage app. The album Closer had 1 new addition, 2 photos now. I clicked the first, the one of my sleeping room. The resolution was impossibly clear. I could see the title of the book on my nightstand. The man was not a smudge of darkness here. He was a detailed silhouette, the herringbone weave of his coat distinct, the slight slope of his shoulders evident. He was a fact. The second photo was older, a scan of a Polaroid I'd never seen before. It showed my grandparents' farmhouse kitchen, sunny and bright. Grandma, young and smiling, was washing dishes at the sink. And reflected in the window before her, clear as day, was the man, standing inside the kitchen behind her, his hand outstretched as if to touch her hair. But in the direct perspective of the photo, the space behind her was empty. He existed only in the reflection, a ghost in the glass. The album's description had changed. It now read, "Perspective is a lens. He is in the angle you do not see." A scream clawed its way up my throat, but I choked it down into a whimper. He wasn't just showing me his presence, he was tutoring me, teaching me the grammar of his existence. He was in the negative space, the reflection, the periphery. He was in the looking itself. Driven by a panic that overrode all sense, I did the one thing I knew was forbidden. I took a picture. I aimed my phone at the same corner from which the nocturnal photo had been taken, and I snapped a shot. The flash exploded, bleaching the room white for an instant. The image loaded on my screen. The corner was empty. Just my plain wall. A surge of futile relief washed over me. But then I noticed it. In the glossy surface of my dark television screen across the room, reflected in the shot, was my own figure, phone raised. And standing directly behind my reflected self, closer than he had ever been, his form bending around mine like a shadow, was the man. His head was tilted, as if curious. I had not captured him. I had captured us. My phone buzzed again, another notification. Closer had been updated. This new photo was not of a room. It was a close-up of a human eye, the pupil wide and black. The surrounding lashes were familiar. It was Josh's eye. And deep within the dark reflection of his pupil, minute but unmistakable, was a tiny inverted image of a man in a herringbone coat, standing in a field. It was the view from inside Josh's head. The description now read, "I am the window. You are the eye. We are the picture." The horror bifurcated, spiraling in two impossible directions. First, Josh was gone, but his sight remained. His eyes were now lenses. Second, the entity was no longer just infiltrating our photos. It was restructuring the very relationship between seer and seen. We weren't observers anymore. We were the film. Our awareness was the dark room where he developed himself. I finally understood Grandma's true failure. She thought the pictures were the problem. They were never the problem. The problem was the seeing. By burning the photos, she tried to blind the family. But the man didn't need the physical print. He needed the act of perception, the mental imprint, the haunted second glance. And Josh, by obsessing, by studying, had given him a feast. He had become a perfect vessel, a living camera. And now, through the connection of our blood, our shared childhood, our mutual sin of looking, he was offering me the viewfinder. The last update came an hour ago. The album Closer now contains a final image. It is not a photograph. It is a live feed. A gray, grainy, slightly pulsing image of a ceiling I don't recognize. It's the view from a body lying on its back. Occasionally, a blur passes at the edge of the frame, a shadow that might be a door, or a figure moving just out of sight. The feed has no sound, but it has a title: Home. And I know with a certainty that has settled into my bones like a terminal cold, that this is what Josh sees. This is the view from his eyes. He is showing me his new room. He is waiting for me to watch long enough, to look hard enough, to finally make out the details in the gray, to see what is standing over him, to finally, truly, bring him home. My phone is on the table before me. The screen is dark. I can feel the pull of it, the horrific gravity of that album. To look is to participate. To not look is to abandon Josh to a solitude more profound than death. The man is no longer in the background. He is in the network, in the signal, in the space between the pixel and the thought. He has moved from the edge of the woods to the edge of my mind. And the most terrifying question of all now whispers to me from that same dark corner. If I open the feed, if I give him my attention, my fear, my focused sight, whose eyes will I be looking through when I finally see what he sees? The silence in my lit room is no longer silence. It is a low hum, the frequency of a starved refrigerator, of dormant electronics. It is the sound of being watched from within the very medium of watching. The live feed titled Home glows on my laptop, a portal I've kept minimized but never closed. I am a prisoner of its gray, pulsing light. I tried everything. Priests, psychologists, a digital detox specialist who paled and refunded my money after looking at the metadata of the first photo. The feed is untraceable, hosted on no known server. It is a ghost in the machine, and the machine is now an extension of my nervous system. The horror has evolved past jump scares in the dark. It is quieter, more total. It is in the corruption of my own archive. I opened my personal cloud, the one holding decades of digitized family memories, seeking comfort in a past he shouldn't touch. My graduation photo, there in the bleachers behind my beaming parents, a tall, thin blur that wasn't there last year. A snapshot from my 10th birthday party, my own small hands blowing out candles, and now, in the darkened window behind me, the reflection of a figure standing in our living room, a place that should have been empty. He is retroactively seeding himself into my timeline, making himself a foundational part of my story. My history is becoming his habitat. Worse are the new rules he's teaching me, rules that feel discovered, not invented. First rule: he thrives in the glance, but he solidifies in the shared gaze. When I look at a corrupted photo, I can feel the faint, psychic pressure of Josh looking at it too, through his own eyes, wherever they are. We are focusing him into being, together. Second rule: he is not behind me. He is in the concept of behind. He occupies the space just outside the frame of any given moment. When I turn my head, the frame moves, and he is already in the new blind spot I've just created. Third rule: he is coming for the source. Last night the feed changed. The gray ceiling of Home shifted. It was a slow, nauseating tilt, as if the body, Josh's body, was trying to sit up. The blurred shadow at the edge solidified. It was Grandma's old rocking chair, the one from her attic. And in it, a silhouette was now seated, rocking slowly. Not the tall man. This shape was smaller, familiar. It wore the outline of Grandpa's favorite cardigan. The feed cut to black for 10 eternal seconds. When it returned, the perspective was different. It was a first-person view of hands, Josh's hands, resting on a table. Before them lay 4 physical Polaroids, the originals he'd stolen. And a 5th, fresh and still glistening with chemical smear. The hands reached out and slowly turned the new one over. It showed the interior of the leather satchel, the one we'd found in the dummy's leg. But this wasn't a memory. This was a photo of the satchel now, dusty and cracked, lying on some unknown soil. And beside it, also in the frame, was a pair of worn work boots. Grandpa's boots, from the day he vanished. The message was clear. He had led Josh to the proof. The artifact wasn't just photos. It was a relic. And Josh, my curious doomed cousin, had become its archaeologist. My phone rang then. A number I didn't know. I answered, breath trapped in my lungs. No voice. Only a sound. The soft, rhythmic creak, creak, creak of a rocking chair on wooden boards. And underneath it, a wet, ragged whisper of breathing that was not Josh's. It was the sound of lungs that hadn't drawn air in decades, trying to remember how. The call dropped. A second later, a new file arrived in Closer. Not a photo. An audio recording. I played it, my soul turning to ice. It was my own voice, pulled from some forgotten childhood tape. Me, at maybe 7, narrating a family camping trip. And here is our tent, and here is the big tree, and here is... A pause on the original tape, once just a lapse in my childish commentary. But now, in the silence I had left, a new voice had been spliced in. A dry, papery voice, speaking with impossible intimacy, finishing my sentence. Here is where the path runs out. He is not just invading my present or rewriting my past. He is editing my very narrative. He is becoming the author of my memory, the curator of my fear. I finally broke and did the only thing left. I went to Grandma's house. She is frail now, a wisp in a floral armchair, her eyes clouded with cataracts. She cannot see the feed, the photos, the digital horror. I thought she was safe. I was wrong. I took her hand, my words tumbling out in a desperate rush about Josh, the album, the eyes, the boots. She didn't react with fresh terror. She sighed, a sound of profound, weary defeat. "You found the invitation," she whispered, "and your cousin RSVP'd." "What invitation?" I pleaded. "The satchel," she said, her blind eyes staring past me. "We didn't just find it. My father made it. He was a curious man, dabbled in things you shouldn't. Photographs the soul, he'd say. He thought he could capture a moment's ghost, press it between chemicals like a flower in a book. He was trying to make a memory permanent. But he caught something else, something that was waiting to be noticed." She tightened her grip, her bones like bird claws. "He didn't follow us because we took his picture. We took his picture because he had already followed us home, from wherever my father's nonsense pulled him. The pictures were never the door, they were the address, and by looking, by wondering, by keeping them, we kept sending him letters, telling him we were still here, that we remembered the way." She turned her milky gaze toward me, and in it, I saw a final, horrifying truth. "He doesn't want to be in your pictures, child. He wants to be in your family tree. He's trying on our skins one by one. Your grandfather's cardigan." Your cousin's eyes. A single clear tear traced a path through her wrinkles. "He's looking for a face that fits, a face he can wear to the next family reunion." I left her sitting in the gathering dark. The feed is open on my phone as I drive. The perspective is moving. Josh is walking. The view is of floorboards, then grass, then the dark, rich soil of the woods at the edge of the old farm. The boots are on his feet now. He is heading towards a particular tree, the one from the very first Polaroid. The man is not in front of him. He is not behind him. The feed's title has changed one last time. It no longer says home. It says becoming. And I realize, with a calm that is the true heart of madness, that I am not waiting for the feed to show me a monster. I am waiting for it to turn, to find a mirror, and show me the new, beloved face of my cousin. And I know when it does, I will have to look. Because he is family, and we never look away from family. The drive to the old farm is a memory made of static. The familiar landmarks are just backdrops now, stage pieces for a play that was written before I was born. The feed on my phone is my only compass. Becoming. The view through Josh's eyes is a steady, plodding pilgrimage through moonlit undergrowth. I understand now what I must do. Grandma's words unlocked the final door. He's looking for a face that fits. He is not a ghost. He is a concept of absence given shape by our attention. A vacancy putting on the clothes of our history. My grandfather didn't confront him. He fed him. He gave him the raw material of a confrontation. The anger, the challenge, the focused will, and the entity used it to learn how to wear a grandfather's disappearance. Josh gave him curiosity, a scholar's obsession, and now he is learning how to wear a cousin. I park where the driveway ends, and step into the cool night. The feed shows a gnarled oak, its roots like skeletal fingers gripping the earth. This is the tree from the first photo, the one where he was a smudge between two trunks. Now, Josh's hands, pale and dirty, come into view. They are digging at the base of the tree. I don't run. I walk. There is no urgency left, only the grim pull of a ceremony reaching its climax. I push through the final line of brush and see him. Josh kneels in the loam. He has dug up the leather satchel. Beside it lies a small, rusted Kodak disposable camera, the kind we used as kids. He picks it up. His movements are jerky, like a marionette with tangled strings. He turns, and I see his face. It is Josh's face, but it is a mask of utter, desolate vacancy. His eyes are open, but they are not the windows to the feed. They are dull, dark glass. The feed I am watching is from behind those eyes, looking out. The entity is the camera now, and Josh is the film being exposed. He speaks, but the voice is a collage. Fragments of Grandpa's remembered baritone, the dry whisper from the audio, and underneath, Josh's own ruined tenor. You are the last look. He raises the disposable camera, points it at me. The flash unit is dead, but I know it doesn't need light. It needs perception. It needs the final acknowledging gaze to cement the transformation. This is the choice. I can run, and leave Josh as this hollow thing, a shell containing a forever hungry absence that will simply find another way, another cousin, another generation. Or I can play my part in the story my great-grandfather began. I look straight into the lens. I look at the non-face of the thing wearing my cousin, standing in my grandfather's boots, holding my family's cursed artifact. I give it not a glance of terror, but a look of terrible final recognition. I see him. I see all of him. The missing grandfather, the stolen cousin, the silent watcher in every happy memory. I give him the one thing he has always wanted. A complete, unified story. The click of the shutter is not a sound. It is a silence so deep it swallows the world. The feed on my phone goes black, truly black. Not the gray of home, but the void of a powered-off screen. Josh slumps forward into the dirt. I wait. The woods are silent. No crickets, no wind. I walk to him, my feet sinking into the soft earth. I roll him over. He is breathing, shallow but steady. His eyes are closed. He looks like Josh again, just sleeping, exhausted. In his hand he clutches the disposable camera. I pry his fingers loose. It feels warm. I do not point it at anything. I simply hold it. Weeks have passed. Josh is back. He remembers nothing after the first night he saw the man in the tree line. He is hollowed out, fragile, but he is himself. The album closer is gone from the cloud, vanished as if it never was. The corrupted photos in my personal archive have reverted, the blurry shapes in the background dissolved into natural shadows. Grandma passed in her sleep last night. A gentle end, they said. I sit at my desk now, in the quiet of my own home. The fear is gone. It has been replaced by a profound, echoing understanding. I hold the disposable camera. It is no longer warm. It is cool, inert, a used-up thing. I understand the final unspoken rule. The story must be told. The entity wasn't just hungry for looks. It was hungry for a narrative, a reason for being. My great-grandfather summoned a void. My grandfather gave it a mystery. My grandmother gave it a rule. Josh gave it a methodology. I have given it an ending. And in doing so, I have become the curator. The keeper of the satchel, the camera, the story. He is not in the pictures anymore. He is the picture. A finished thought, a closed loop. And as long as I remember, as long as I hold this knowing in my mind, he remains there. Complete, contained, sated. I put the camera in my desk drawer, next to the old scanned prints. I close the drawer. Sometimes, in the very edge of my vision, just as I'm falling asleep, I see a tall, thin shape. It doesn't move closer. It doesn't need to. It simply stands at the perfect distance, framed in the doorway of my memory. And I let it stay, because it's family. And you never really look away from family. You just learn how to see it.